No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey, gardeners. Hope you're all having a really wonderful week. Now, let's get growing. Hello and welcome, gardeners, to Let's Get Growing, your weekly gardening live cast here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch, and I'll be your host for today's show. Really glad to see all of you joining with us here today. Today's featured guest, if you stay tuned here in just a little bit, we'll be having a discussion with Nick Federoff. Nick's going to come back and join with us again here on the show and basically do a redo of the interview with him that we tried to do months ago. But we tried to do this thing where he was at a trade show and it didn't quite work out with some of the technologies very well. So we got him back here on the show in order to do a redo of Nick's interview. So that'll be really fun. So stay tuned here in just a little bit. Nick will be joining with us here on the show. And so if you are here joining with us, be sure, as we always say, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up button there for all of us here at the Let's Get Growing show. And for Nick Federoff, our featured guest today, plus hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification too if you want to be notified of our upcoming videos and live shows here on the Urban Gardener channel, as well as share our show with all of your friends. Share and let them know that we have this really great fun show here on Saturday mornings, getting to talk to all of these just really great wonderful guests like Nick today. We just had Greg Peterson on recently. Just we have so many awesome guests from week to week here on the Let's Get Growing show. So be sure to share with all of your garden friends about our show, and so they can come and check out all of our great, awesome guests that we have here. And you can also go and check us out on our website at letsgetgrowing.live. And I also, at the top of the show, want to give a big, huge shout out to all of our replay viewers. Not everybody gets the opportunity to join with us here on the weekend live Saturday mornings here at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so they watch on the replay. We get a lot of viewers who watch us on the replay, and I want to just give a big, huge shout out to all of you. And if you have any questions, comments, or any sort of suggestions or anything like that, just get down in the comment section below and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of Let's Get Growing and all of our great guests. And be sure to check out some of our other shows that we have on our YouTube page there. And you can see some of those other interviews with, again, all of these awesome guests that we have here on Let's Get Growing. And of course, one of the best ways to support the Let's Get Growing show is to support our sponsors. And the sponsor for Let's Get Growing is Ivy Organics. You can check them out at ivyorganics.com. And be sure to use our promo code GROW10, GROW10, to get 10% off there in their shop. All right. And also, be sure to leave a comment, ask some questions, leave suggestions, or anything at all, especially if you're joining with us here live. Get into the comment section there. Let us know you're here. Let us know what you got growing on. I want to talk about your gardens. I want to hear about all of that sort of stuff, and chat with some of the other people in the chat as well too. So definitely join in with us. And if you do have any questions when Nick is here on the show, be sure to ask them so that I can ask them to him and we can get your questions answered as well too. So yeah, again, just really, really wonderful to have all of you here joining with me this week. And let's see here. I'm gonna check our comments section real quick, and definitely welcome everybody into the chat as well. We've got with us our moderator Jay in there, leaving us some really awesome links and everything throughout the show. So if we're talking about something and you're wondering where to find it or anything like that, definitely check the comment section as well too. Jade is really good about leaving some links to all the things that we're talking about. And again, not much going on as far as outdoor gardening right now. Just a bunch of cleanup and doing a bunch of mulching too. I've been collecting the final leaves finally fell off of my tree out front. So I was finally able to finally gather all the last of the leaves and mulch them up. And I just basically take the mower right over top of them and I mulch them up and get these really great piles that I just take the bag and I just go pile them up on all of these spaces around all of our gardens that we have down the alleyway, the back, some of our raised beds. I've got these big 45-gallon felt like type pots that we use, like smart pots, but they're really huge. So all of these sort of spaces wherever I've got open growing soil, I pile these leaves right on top of each of those open spaces and make sure that everything's basically just nice and tucked in for some of these winter temperatures and all of that as well too. And it's going to help with any sort of weeds that are going to try to grow. It's going to also really encourage, again, I've been talking a lot about worms lately, but it'll encourage all of them to kind of have something to crawl up to and eat when it's warm enough out. And again, those will break down and all of that hopefully around by spring, and we'll be able to plant our gardens right back into those spaces as they'll be nice and ready for us by that time, as all of that organic material is just going to break down and eventually end up right into our soil there. So it's just a really big thing I like to make sure that I get done at least before we start really seeing some of our really big freezes around here, which are coming up here real soon because it's been getting really, really cold. So I'm not sure what it's been like for you in your area. Let me know in the chat there too, where are you growing from? What are the temperatures been like for you? I know some of our viewers and people who follow along with us, if you check out our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing group, one of our friends, Wayne, he lives down in Southern California, so he's able to garden pretty much all year round. So lucky for a lot of you who get that opportunity to be able to do that. And again too, that's a really, again, I'll mention that as well, go down into the description below too and check out our link to our Let's Get Growing Facebook group. And if you do live in a cold place and you need to see somebody's garden and all of that, we've got a couple of gardeners, especially Wayne, who contributes throughout the winter time and shares all of his awesome gardening that he has that we can't do. Grows just all sorts of stuff. He was just planting out onions and still harvesting all of these just really awesome peppers and just all sorts of stuff. He's got great fruit trees and all that sort of stuff. So it's great to be able to have people in our community who can share those sort of things during the times when a lot of us can't grow very many things and are, like I said, out there tucking away some of our garden spaces that we have. But yeah, definitely let me know. We got, looks like I see we got Rob joining with us here. Rob from over in England. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. Connie, awesome. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for jumping into the comment section there. It's really great to see all of you here again this week. I wasn't here last week. I had an opportunity to do some things with some friends that I don't normally get to do, and just a couple of things kind of happened with our guest who I had planned for the show, and so the opportunity just kind of opened up last minute for me to be able to just kind of close everything down for the weekend that I'm usually doing and go out and have some fun and all of that. So that's what I decided to do for last week. So I'm sorry I wasn't here for everybody. It would have just been me anyways, and so I just, again, sometimes you got to take a break. Sometimes you just got to do that, and sometimes it just kind of happens really last minute, and something happens, and you got to jump and take the opportunity. Looks like we got Joe here from Grow Big TV. Joe, there also at the Garden State Gardener on YouTube as well too. Really awesome to see you, Joe. Thanks for joining with us there. And yeah, so real quick though, I just wanted to talk about this last week. One of the things that was in the news, I'm sure a lot of everybody heard about the passing of former First Lady Rosalind Carter. And one of the things I want, when these kind of things happen, and bless her life, getting to live to such a long life, and to have such a meaningful and life as well too. So, bless her on that as well. But, it's at these times we get to learn some things that we didn't necessarily know before. And, this last week I got to learn about something about Rosalind Carter that I didn't know, that I think is just really awesome. And I think a lot of other people who watch our show and follow along with our channel would be interested in as well too. Back, I think it is said in 2013, Rosalind Carter started the Rosalind Carter Butterfly Trail. And this is basically a kind of just a project that brings together gardeners who are putting together pollinator gardens for butterflies and endangered butterfly species like the monarch butterflies, that people have been really concerned about for, quite a long time. And so she decided to do something about it by starting and building up a couple of pollinator gardens in her own garden. And of course, as being the former first lady, she's, got a lot of influence on people and able to start such a great organization, where it's based, and this is where even you right now, if you have a pollinator garden, or even if you haven't even started one and have wanted to, it's a great opportunity for you to start one in her honor and all of that, and put together a really great pollinator garden and things that really kind of help feed, like those milkweeds and things that really help feed those monarch butterflies and other butterfly species as well too. And you can go to that website. I also put a link down below in the description as well to that website there. You can go and follow that link and register your own garden, your own pollinator garden, in order to join the Rosalind Carter Butterfly Trail, and have your garden linked into that whole system and be a part of the whole, pollinator garden awareness of, butterflies and, and all of those other species of pollinators that are really, really important. And I try to do a little bit what I can throughout my garden spaces to put in little different spaces where I can have flowers and pollinator type plants and things like that, in order to encourage that to happen too. And I've also actually really noticed this last year, more so than I've noticed, I think, in any other previous year, I've actually seen and noticed more monarch butterflies flying around our garden spaces too. So really encourages me even more to go and do even more to do that. So I've got a couple of spaces I've been working on as kind of like flower gardens that I've got. I've got one right up in the front of the alleyway, and then one back towards the back of the alleyway that I've been doing. And, I've been just planting out bulbs. That's actually something I was doing this last week. Before last Saturday, was planting out the last of the bulbs I've got for some of the spring flowers and that sort of thing. And So that's something that I'll try to work on doing as we move into the next season, is maybe add some more pollinator friendly type plants into those spaces. So, and and also really finding maybe some really good perennial native plants that are native to this area as well too. Get some good native pollinators into those spaces as well too. That's definitely something I've been looking to do in my garden spaces a bit more. And finding this out about First Lady Rosalind Carter's butterfly trail this week, and reading about that has really kind of encouraged me just even a little bit more to be able to do a little bit more, and then maybe go register our gardens here on the Rosalind Carter Butterfly Trail and be a part of that whole um, kind of program, and help butterflies and pollinators and those species that really kind of need more habitat. Help kind of expand that for them as well too, in all of our local areas. So I hope that's something that you check out and look into as well too. And maybe you're, like I said, maybe you already have a really cool pollinator garden that you might want to go and register there too. So definitely follow the link down below in the description to that there, the Rosalind Carter Butterfly Trail. Let's see here. I'm going to check in real quick here. Yes, and definitely, it looks like Jay's also put a link for us in the comments there too. So you can all go and check that out as well. All right. And let's see here. Okay. All right. Well, right here in just a couple of minutes here, we'll join with our featured guest, Nick Federoff. So we'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers offer your plants everything they need to have the most productive, fruitful, and longest-lasting lives. For all plants, including your fruit trees, vegetables, ornamentals, and roses and flowers, in-ground or potted plants, young and established, the 6 macronutrients that all plants need. Macronutrients are those elements that plants need in abundance and include nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. Nitrogen helps with the greening of the plants and the growth. Phosphorus for abundance of flowers and fruits, plus drought tolerance. Potassium is for disease resistance, root development, and strength. Magnesium is the heart of the chlorophyll molecule, which is responsible for photosynthesis, converting waters and carbon dioxide with light energy into sugar molecules. Sulfur helps green pale plants turn dark green and necessary for optimal plant metabolic processes. And calcium, the building block of all plant cell walls. IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers have it all in both the Super and Premium Blend products. The Super Blend simply has a higher percentage of the macronutrients plus azomite, which is derived from volcanic ash deposits, to offer your plants many of the micronutrients too. The product can be applied to the soil or as a foliar feed, and even as a supplement to your compost tea. IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers are organic, effective, USA-made products to maximize the productivity, health, and life of all plants and trees. Keep growing with IV Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.
All right, all right. So back on the show, joining with us this week is our good friend from ThingsGreen, Nick Federoff. Nick, good to see you there. How you doing?
Greetings and salutations, young man. Look at that studio of yours. Looks just as good as it was when I stopped in and visited you.
Yeah, yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, I was gonna mention that to everybody. One of my actual first visitors from friends I've met on YouTube and the show and all of that, to stop by and check out our gardens here. And if I was going to show everybody real quick, we got a picture here. Yeah, there we are.
That's it.
Where, yeah, where were you heading when you stopped by there?
I don't even remember. I do a little bit of work in Oregon. I'm doing filming over
Yeah,
there. In fact, this year I filmed 3, maybe 4 TV shows,
yeah, yeah.
and I think I was headed up north doing that, and I I remember, like, wait a minute, I know where
Yeah,
this guy lives. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I stayed at a hotel that was just down the street, and that's when I
yeah.
started looking you up to try to find out where you're at.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
was a good thing you stopped by there too, because we'd almost missed each other from when you first showed up too, I think. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Also, another great thing is we've got to meet each other and do lots of things over the years. Actually, we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. But I've always heard about Mrs. Things Green, and this was really an opportunity to finally meet this wonderful woman. And
you're too kind.
so it was great.
It's interesting. You will not find one picture of her in any of my social media.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. And that's why I refer to her as Mrs. Things Green. She does
Yeah.
exist. You are literally one of the few people who has ever met her. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, she
Yeah.
just
It's
doesn't
been
like the limelight. She doesn't like being in front of people and stuff like that. So I just keep it like that.
it,
Plus, I've got such an interesting audience reach. I mean, I've had people uh, come down here to the thingsgreen.com botanical gardens unannounced and just do some crazy stuff. And I just don't want my family and to be
right. Right.
exposed to that. Yeah,
Yeah. There's always some, crazy element that follows along with any sort of putting yourself out into public. It just doesn't even matter,
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
doing or what you're talking about or what you're putting yourself out there doing. There's always some small, fraction of people who would want to get in and kind of mess with things and then even
yeah.
worse, like you said, show up at your house and
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the one thing that's it's good and it's not good. I
yeah.
brag about how I have a plant hospital over here, and
Hmm.
people they do bring plants, but I kind of wish that they would call me first.
Right. Yeah,
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 give a call, send an email. I'm online all the time, as you know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you could just let me know so I can prepare my staff so that we don't
yeah,
have these plants that are just piling up over there. And we'll actually take these plants, we'll nurse them to health.
yeah,
Sometimes I'll use them for my television show,
yeah.
or maybe my news segments that I do. And then we, after we nurse them up, we usually give them away
Right.
because
Yeah.
I can't use all these plants.
That's right. It's the best thing to do with them though, too. Pass them along. But I for me though, I'm talking about like, the idea of people showing up. I was just my as you saw when you were here, my whole garden spaces are along this alleyway. It's all open. In fact, I think if
Yeah,
you remember, we just walk right into my back patio space. There's no gate,
yeah,
there's nothing, no barrier and all of that. And for the most part, if people were to show up, I would like a phone call because I would love to be able to be out there to explain and talk about and show the different things that I've got growing and all of that because it is open where people can walk through all the time and I do have a security camera system up and I get alerts here and there when people break into not break in but they it's a motion kind of alert so they get
yeah.
into the area where I have set up for the back patio space. I'll get an alert for it, and every now and then somebody, especially during the real growing season, I'll get several alerts where people who are just walking through the alleyway are just looking and they're just like, I get people who are just like, wow, and pointing at things and just fascinated with all this sort of stuff. And
Well, part of that is your
as
fault,
long
buddy.
as I don't find anything missing, which hasn't happened in all the years yet so
Okay,
far.
but I have to tell you,
But
this is part of this is your fault because you were when I was there, you were growing strawberries the
oh
size of
gosh, yeah.
softballs. I mean,
They were
how can you
so good this year. They were
how could
so
you
good
not
this year.
stop and want to ravage those things? Oh man,
Oh
that was
man,
so awesome.
yeah, yeah. You caught us right at that time of year where we were harvesting. Oh, I still got so many that I got in the freezer still. But
Nice.
yeah, they were just amazing strawberries this year. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to those. Got them all tucked away for the winter this year already. So that's what I was doing like this last week, and I was talking about it a little bit at the beginning of the show, taking a lot of our leaf mulch and everything, and I mulched it down really good, basically just using the lawnmower just to mulch down that leaf mulch from my tree really good. But that was one of the things we were doing, was tucking away all of the strawberry beds and making sure that they got a nice, really good pile of leaves on there, because we're going to start seeing some really freezing weather in our parts here real soon. So it's good to
Yeah,
kind of
I was
protect our
in,
soil.
dude, last week I was in Idaho, and I decided to drive. Usually I'm pretty fortunate I could fly all over the place, but this time I decided to drive. So I took a leisurely trip, and I was going up through the eastern part of California into Nevada. Then I went into the southeastern part of Oregon into Idaho. And when I was in Oregon, dude, the temperature was 8 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Eight, do you know how cold 8 degrees is?
Well, especially for someone from you who's used to all that Southern California temperatures.
Exactly.
I was just talking about one of our viewers who shares on our Facebook group. Wayne lives down not too far from you there, and he's always sharing throughout the winter time for us all the things he's growing in the garden and all that. But and
Yeah.
for all of us gardeners who are stuck in these winter temperatures and can't do it, we get to look towards all of you who get to all year round.
Well, we had such a strange year this year in
Yeah,
California, and in particular in Southern California. It's interesting where I happen to live. I don't grow by zones. I think
right.
zone growing is the
I
most
was just gonna
ridiculous. Yeah.
I was just gonna bring this up to you actually. So yeah,
Oh, is that right?
we'll dig into this, because
Okay. So
we
just so as
did
you know, the
have
US.
the USDA brought out a new zone map this
Yeah.
last year, or this last week or so, and basically changed people's zones. And I did a little bit of thing and I put out a little video to kind of talk about this as well too, because I don't refer to zones, and I think referring to zones kind of misdirects gardeners, especially newer gardeners, about what kind of area or what their microclimates and those sort of things that they're growing in. It doesn't really give us a good idea, especially and for the most part, what annuals, right? I mean, these don't have anything to do with annuals. I mean, if you're planting some fruit trees, maybe you might want to make sure they're zone hardy to whatever zone you're in, a perennial or something like that. But it's only the
Yeah.
zone thing's only telling you the lowest average temperature, right?
Yeah. Over the past like 10 years. I
I think
mean,
even
they,
30
they compile
years.
it over
I think even
100 years,
30
if I'm
years.
not mistaken. But they'll compile it over 100, but they take an average of 10 years, and then you just don't know. And last year's weather with the because it happened in your state, it happened in Washington. The 14 Western states had that El Nino come through
Mm-hmm.
and wipe out the droughts. But the point is that if you were to growing by zone based on
Oh,
whatever the zone you were in.
oh, well, I think we're oh more
You
technical
there?
difficulty. Oh, I think we almost went
Yeah,
out
look at
for a
that.
second there.
Does that just happen to me? Does that just happen to me?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, I know. I know. We were going to talk about that too here in a minute as well.
Okay, let's
Uh,
continue on with this real quick.
Yeah.
So zone growing it's good for an idea of where you're at,
Hmm.
but it's not what a person should really do when it comes to gardening. And I'm on where I live. I actually live within a 2-hour driving radius of every single zone on that map. So it doesn't make any sense, even though they say, well, you're a zone XYZ 432. No, 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 no. It says don't worry about that because you used a keyword which is called a microclimate. And what happens
Hmm.
in my yard doesn't necessarily happen what's in your yard and vice versa. So
Yeah.
you need to garden by microclimates because you have these mini jet streams that happen. And the best way and the jet streams are very constant, by the way. And the best way to do this is to, I like to say, take some water, spray it on your arm, and then do this early in the morning and between 6 and 7 o'clock, let's just say, and then walk from the backyard to the front yard just at a slow pace and notice how the temperature on your arm changes. That
Yeah.
tells you those are microclimates. And it's those microclimates that your
Yeah.
plants are going to respond to. For instance, you can have a hedge of boxwood. Why do you have five of them looking just beautiful? And number six is dying, and number seven is almost dying, and then it gets
Yeah.
better. That's because those are in a microclimate right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
micros, and you know what? And I mentioned Idaho. I have stations that I broadcast on all over the United States, and I helped this one
Yeah.
guy who moved from Southern California to Idaho, and he wanted to grow palm trees. Nobody grows palm trees over here. If you were to drive by his house right now,
Yeah.
he's got probably the only palm tree that is growing because I helped him figure it out. Now, did it take
Yeah.
some manipulating? Absolutely. And we did
Right.
manipulate the climate, but we also had to start off with this microclimate to put the plants into.
Yeah. Exactly. There are multiple factors when it comes into it. I think people just kind of get more caught up in the idea of the zone and zone maps and have an idea different. I find that people have a lot of different ideas about what it ultimately means versus what you're actually trying to use it for in your garden spaces. And really, when you're thinking about temperatures, and for a lot of us who are growing vegetable gardens, which is a lot of what we do and what our gardens here on my channel and all of that, are annuals and things that we're starting from seed each and every year. And those zone maps aren't really going to be helping us out at all when it comes
No.
to those. And we really want to be looking at our first and last frost dates, and then getting to understand what each individual plant that we're trying to plant is. Is it a cold hardy plant? Are we starting it earlier in the season before that first frost day or last frost date? All of those sort of things, and that kind of varies from plant to plant as well. So there are multiple different things to look at, but I think people get caught up in the zones a bit. So it was big talk in social media and the different groups and everything over the last couple of weeks, this new zone map. But it really is only telling you one piece of information, and
It
that's
is. And then
really
if you
how
also,
cold you might expect it to get in your area. That's it.
now the other thing is this, if you look at I didn't look up the new zone map this year because it just didn't interest me.
Hmm.
But if from the old one, I do know it says right on the website from the USDA, this is just a suggestion. It doesn't really
Yeah.
mean it's going to happen in your area. So they take
Yeah.
all the outs and they
Hmm.
say this isn't
Yeah.
science, basically, that's putting this all together. This is just, we're just kind of guessing at this.
Yeah,
So,
well,
but there's,
they're just basically taking the average temperatures they're getting from
yeah,
all these weather stations, and again, the average lowest temperature that they calculate
yeah.
for each of these different weather stations. I think they added thousands of weather stations from the last time they put it out, I think in 2012 or something like that. So here it is 12 years later. They've added thousands of more weather stations. They've added another 10 years to their 30-year averages, which drops the 10 years previous and goes this. So that made that adjustment of a half a zone for a lot of people. But again, too much concern into the idea of what that means for everybody, because it's just telling you that average low temperature, because some plants aren't going to be hardy to a minus 30 or you know what I mean, a -5 or a 10 degrees, depending on what your lowest temperature might be. Some of your bushes, trees, things like that might not be able to manage those a lot, and those are the things you'd be concerned with that. But I think a lot of what we garden, especially our vegetables and things like that, don't, that's not going to help us out at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah. And again, too, it's like I said, it's just showing us those averages, which kind of did show a bit of an adjustment of temperature and that sort of thing as far as averages were concerned. We got a question from Jay here, and he asks, Nick, over the years, what changes have you noticed as gardening has evolved? I guess that doesn't even necessarily mean weather or anything like that, you know. Gardening, I think, in some sense,
Yeah, that's
maybe even
actually
social
a pretty good.
media, you know.
You know,
I
it's actually a pretty good question because yeah, the social media aspect of it has just grown tremendously.
hmm
Misinformation has grown
Oh, big time.
tremendously.
Yeah. Yep.
Boy, I'll tell you, you know, you say, well, it must be true. It's on the internet, right? You know,
Right.
most of the stuff that you see on TikTok or any of those Instagram, I look at that stuff and I go, man, the trick photography that they're doing. I'll give you
Yeah.
just an example over here, and there's, I don't want to call out any names, but and I'm not going to, but
Right.
there's people who put out content and they're showing that you can grow you can grow oranges from seed. Well, you can
Right.
grow an orange tree from seed. You're just not going to get
hmm
any fruit off of it. But they show
Right.
that you get fruit off of it. Or
Right.
maybe an
Right.
avocado from a
Yeah.
pit. You'll grow a
Yeah.
beautiful plant, but the chances
hmm
of avocados actually growing on that plant are slim to none because these
Yep.
are all
Yep.
plants that need to be grafted. They miss out
Yep.
and they're misrepresenting what's going on with that. So a lot of misinformation. So that's one of the things that has
Yeah.
changed.
I got a couple of little lemon trees that I'm growing from lemon seeds off of a lemon that I got, but it's those are just for plants.
Yeah,
I
just
know I'm not
ornamental
gonna
purposes. You know,
ornamental purpose,
and that's
having that
okay to
nice
do.
citrus smell plant in my house plant
Yeah,
garden, but that you have to understand the reality of what it means when you're growing, especially from seeds that you're getting from fruits and vegetables and things that you're buying at a market or a store or something like that.
exactly.
Definitely.
Another thing that is really kind of interests me is that there's this growing interest in organics, but there's a miss. Well, let me dial that back. I like to talk about something that's always controversial, or that's controversial. The difference between something that's a GMO and something that's genetically engineered or GE.
hmm
So it's super
Yeah.
controversial, and I have my opinion on why it is this way. Okay, so the letters GMO, genetically modified organisms.
hmm
People really don't understand the true meaning of it. There's nothing I can do about it any longer because people have been brainwashed.
Yeah.
You and I are genetically modified organisms because we came from our parents.
Yeah.
That's what makes us genetically modified organisms. What people should be worried about are things that are genetically engineered. That's
Yeah.
much different because genetically engineered is when they're taking a plant and then they're taking a chemical. This is an organic chemical right here, organic material, but they're taking something that is only possible to introduce to this plant scientifically. So,
Yeah.
for instance, it's the really big hoopla with Monsanto, how they've taken glyphosates and they've been able to put it inside of corn so that
Yeah.
it genetically engineers it.
Yeah.
Well, that is done under science. The other is
hmm
done by nature.
Yeah.
Pollination is a genetically modified, it's a GMO. Anything is pollinated, anything
Yeah, all those
hybridized.
little pollinators, like I was talking about at the beginning, there are little scientists rolling around
Yeah.
creating new
And that's
hybrids and stuff.
exactly. That's
Yep,
nature. That's a
it's nature
beautiful
way.
thing.
Yeah.
So there's nothing I can do about it. There's misunderstanding. If you go to my website, I
And it
wrote an
is, and I
article
agree too. And I've
or
even done
article.
video talking about this as well too, is that, the understanding, especially being more clear,
Yeah.
especially with the introduction of genetically engineered GE. I think that just clarified things a little bit more. But those who are still caught up with GMO and that acronym, is just, because it's gotten itself so popular, meaning what it already means, that in our lexicon or whatever it's just changing its meaning to, and so what are we going to have to, I don't know what really needs to be done in order to clarify it to people who keep getting caught up in that sort of stuff. But definitely GE is the better way of talking about some of those sort of
It is, but if you look, it
altered
is.
or plants. But again, too, there's only a handful of those, and people also get caught up in the scare tactic ideas of this sort of stuff, to where they believe almost anything is. Like you could put a picture of a natural happening situation like vipiary. And vipiary is basically when seeds start to germinate inside of their parent fruit, like a tomato with all the seeds, and they got a little green coming out of it. And that happens. It happens really mostly with plants that are fruit that are left on the plant just a little bit long, and the sun's breaking that plant barrier and putting light on the inside, and they just start to germinate. But you put a picture of that online, and people are going to start. You'll see just 50 people in the comments calling it GMO or even GE. Some might even have that acronym correct, but they'll try to call something that they see that's weird in the plant world. And mind you, the plant world is full of weird things. Some of the weirdest stuff you'll ever see on this planet is in the plant world,
Right.
And if you look at anything that's weird that's happening, and you just immediately direct it to something that isn't, I think that's just where a lot of the confusion lies too, that people are, I don't know, I think there are a lot of scare tactics that are put into a lot of that sort of stuff. I think need to kind of be clarified more for people.
Or like, for instance, I don't know if you remember, but every so often, usually in spring, it comes up where you'll see translucent strawberries. They're blue strawberries, and they say that they've taken the genes from a jellyfish, and and that would be genetically engineering if that's possible, but it's not possible. It's impossible. You can't do that, and it's not going to change the composition of that strawberry. It's either you have red strawberries, they hybridized but pink strawberries, and then now there's white strawberries, which, by the way, if you haven't grown those things or eaten them, they are amazing. White strawberries.
Yeah, they actually have like a cream-like flavor to them, which is weird. You look at a white strawberry, and I immediately think strawberry cream, and that's what it tasted. Yeah, really, really good. I have tried.
What I like about those in particular is that, for me in particular, it's a different sensation for everybody. For me, there's an aftertaste that happens with it, that strawberry creamy thing, and it's just like, oh, it is so good. So those are some of the things that I've seen over the years. Technology, absolutely. I don't know if people know this or not, but if you really want to get into cloning. Cloning actually started in the world of gardening, in horticulture. That's where it started. And of course, today they're trying to clone all kinds of different things, from animals to even people. But actually, agriculture, they're responsible for cloning. And it's really kind of, I've had when I was in college, way back in the day, in the late 70s. What happened was that I had the opportunity of going to a place to where they were cloning pothos, just your common everyday pothos, nothing fan. I'm looking at one
this
over
guy
there.
Right here.
Yeah, exactly, with the little heart-shaped leaf on it. And every pothos today, chances are, every pothos today is actually a sibling of the parent plant. That was
a single descendant.
Yeah, it was just amazing. So it was cloned off of that from a molecule, let alone. And it's just really kind of cool.
This pothos I have here I got it back in 1998. I've been growing it for the last 25 years, and it's it's grown around the room in different rooms and places I've lived in over the years, many different times. But I'll always take these cuttings, which I still have some there, and I gave some to my daughter, I give some to neighbors, friends. This plant itself, in the 25 years I've had it, is probably also in dozens and dozens of other homes that, if you think of those people have shared cuttings of their own, have gone out, you can see how that works backwards.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
plant
it really
probably
does.
comes from a plant. If you have a pothos, those two plants are probably related somewhere down the line.
It has to be. It has to be,
Hmm.
because if you think about it, this was all these 40 plus years ago, and I saw them doing this. I saw them taking the tissue culture and
Yeah,
describing on how they're able to make these super plants. Super plants in the sense that they weren't genetically engineered. What they did
yeah,
is that this this cloning process is that they took a mother plant that
hmm,
had zero insects,
yeah,
zero problems, always healthy. They took the
yeah.
molecules off of them, and those molecules then
They're
become
cloning.
little supermen or super ladies, and
Yeah,
they end up becoming this plant. And you're right.
yeah,
It could be one begats another, and before you know it, you've got a forest of these things that may have been there from that original plant. You just don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
How big is that? How big is that pothos
Selective
that you have?
breeding in a sense too, that
Yeah.
that
How big of
nature
a pot
does.
is that pothos in that you've got? That's
Oh, I'd say that one's probably about 4 to 5 gallons, maybe.
yeah.
Probably
Do
not.
you
Probably not
ever?
even 5 gallons. Probably, yeah, maybe
Yeah,
four
I
or five.
remember when I was in the room on how it was serpentining all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
goes all the way up and around over here, up and over there, and eventually that way. And then I do have like two other varieties of pothos as well too. I've got this really cool silver queen that's actually on the other side of the screen here.
Mhm.
So eventually that one will catch up and grow with all the rest of them too, though. But it's one of my favorite plants. I've had, like I said, for 25 years now. It's followed along with me everywhere I've gone for all those years. So
That's fun.
yeah.
And they take a beating. That's the best part.
Oh man, it's so resilient. Yeah, and just keep growing and growing and growing. Like I said, I've grown this thing out. It's got to be 40 plus feet, right? I'd say maybe 40 plus feet in each direction that
Yeah,
it
it's pretty
goes.
wild.
So going all the way around like that and then looping around like it does too. So yeah. And then it's done that,
So
like I said, about 5 or 6 times too in 25 years. I've cut it
so
back.
I'm here in my office. I've never had an office that has windows. So
Right. Yeah.
I have one, two, three, four. I have five house plants that are hanging out next to my saxophone,
Yeah.
and I just have a couple of grow lights that are on them,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets freezing in this office because it's made out of block, and then it
Right.
gets hot in the summertime, and the
Right.
plants. It's just really cool that you have these certain plants that are able to adapt to
Mm-hmm.
that. And I love the fact that your plants are doing that. But you've got a whole lot.
Right.
You've got some natural light coming through those windows too.
There's a little bit that comes that's late daylight. It's sunset light. This is a west facing window right here. So it's all the way till the end of the day. It gets its best light that comes through. But for the most part, I do have lighting. So I have
Oh,
LEDs and some compact fluorescents and some different lights, not just for the studio itself, but also for all of the plants. So I kind of move them around when it comes to showtime, but they all kind of go all around the area during our off time. So to keep
oh,
them all
that's
lit
nice.
up, to make sure that they got plenty of light. I like them to
Yeah,
grow as
and
well
and
as
they're
possible.
responding and they're responding well. That's good.
Oh
Good for
yeah,
you.
my new favorites. This guy right here, my Monstera. Oh,
Oh, I was going to
it's
mention
looking
that
so
plant
good
too.
right now. Yeah,
That
it's
is the
climbing.
number.
It's climbing to the ceiling, man. It's great.
Okay, so Monstera, it's pretty amazing because back in the day when I was a landscape contractor, we used to rip those plants out like they were weeds. They're just
Right.
weeds. That's all they are. And when COVID came around, It
Yeah.
fascinates me how the younger people, they globbed onto that plant,
Yeah.
and now it's one of the most highly uh,
Mm-hmm.
wanted plants out of
Yeah.
any house plant that there is. The monstera is one, and what fascinates me is the price that people will pay for it. You get a
Yeah.
little 6-inch pot, they'll pay 50, $60 for it.
Yeah. And then if you actually take the time and you grow some out fully, you can get hundreds of dollars for these fully grown monsteras.
I know, it's
Already,
just,
ready to sit in a corner of an office somewhere.
yeah,
Someone's
yeah.
they're all over that. But yeah, they're and you can see why. I mean, they may be a weed in some areas where they grow kind of crazy and won't stop growing and all that, but you can see their appeal. I mean,
Well,
they're
and
just a really
they've
awesome looking leaf structure,
yeah,
grow
exactly.
really
I mean,
big. People like big things.
and they're easy to take care of,
And again, it's very easy to take care of.
that's
And
actually
again,
kind of
all I
cool.
got is this pole, a little moss pole thing, and it's climbing right up the whole pole. So again, like you said, really easy. But yeah,
That's fun.
love it,
Good
love
for
it,
you.
love it. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. I think I got another question here. Gee, where do we go? Oh, here we are. Jay asks, Nick, you have such a diverse career in horticulture. What experience or part has been the most personally satisfying? Oh,
What
that's a good question,
experience?
Jay.
What experience or part has been the most personally satisfying?
Out of all the things
Um,
you've gotten to do in the horticultural industry.
yeah, I've won radio, television awards. I've been inducted into the Green Industry Hall of Fame. I've got a lot of great accolades. Um, the people. It is
Yeah.
just the people. I'll get real sappy on you, man.
There you go.
If it wasn't for the people, I wouldn't have a career. They have the
Hmm.
questions. What I do is kind of. I mean, I used to maintain a teaching credentials in um, agriculture and horticulture, but I've let my license lapse because well, I'm not teaching anymore. But this is a form of teaching, and I love teaching. I love the interaction. I love the people. One of the highlights that always comes to mind is I was at the post office one day, and a little girl knee high to a grasshopper comes walking up to me and taps me, and I'm looking down on her like this, and she's looking up at me, and she goes, I like strawberries. I said, you do? And then she says, I grow strawberries. So I look around to see if there's any parents. So I
Yeah.
can see that they're parents, they're smiling ear to ear. I get down on my knees to talk to her one on one. And
Yeah.
she starts spilling her guts how her uncle built her a planter that looks like a truck, and they made a planter out of it, and they have the strawberries growing. And then at the very end, she tells me, I love your TV show. I
Oh,
mean, how do
yes.
you how do you not make that the most satisfying part of your career when you know
Hmm.
that when because my TV show is on PBS,
Yep.
it follows fascinating programs from Curious George to I follow PBS Kids. I'm the
Yeah.
first I'm the first grown up human thing that they're and what they see Santa Claus talking to them about plants, and they're
Yes.
digging on that because I become their grandpa,
I
and
was
the
just gonna
parents
say
love it.
that. Yep.
Yeah, the parents can love that because they're sitting there. They know that I'm not going to say anything off colored for their kids to learn.
Yeah.
And it's hands down, it's the people. In fact, there was one lady. I was actually ready to give this whole thing up about maybe it was about 5 6 years ago. I was just
Right.
having a bad time, and I put a lot of faith in what I do and to God and thanking Him for the things that I've done. Because without that, I'd be absolutely nothing. And I'm still absolutely nothing and nobody, but I have a career out of this.
Mhm.
And
Right.
this lady comes up to me and she says, you know, I really like your show. And just prior to that, I'm not kidding you, dude. I told God, I said, I'm done. I'm quitting. I
Mm,
didn't ask him. I told him.
yeah.
This 150-year-old lady comes up to me. She tells me this, and as indignant as I could, I said, "Why? Why do you like the show so much?" And she started explaining. I live by myself. When you're in, he
Yeah.
says, I feel like I've invited you into my house. I feel like you're talking to me. I feel
Yeah.
like you're apostolizing to me without taking a Bible and thumping it on my head.
Yeah.
I felt like such an idiot. So
Yeah.
I don't do anything over here for my glory. I do everything for the glory of God and Jesus Christ. That's the way that I believe that my life should be. That's the way I wish everybody's life could be, because it
Yeah.
makes a difference. And I'm so fortunate that I could do this with his creations of plants and
Yeah.
growing the things. Seeing, you mentioned something earlier that just excited me to no end. When you take a seed and you plant a
Yeah.
seed is a fascinating thing. You put it in the
Yes.
ground, it starts to germinate, and it
Yep.
and it starts lifting up this little piece of dirt, which might as well be a mountain for that seed, and
Yeah.
it
Exactly.
pokes through, and it starts struggling, but yet it's so strong at the same time.
Yeah.
And then and then you blink your eyes and I come visit you at your place and you've got strawberries this big from that one little seed.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that? Or you can get yourself from that one little seed zucchini the size of a VW. I
Yeah.
mean, I,
It's amazing. I mean,
it
when you
is.
think about, the what, like you said, that whole process from growing something from seed. And I remember that's when, I mean, I was already kind of on a road of fascination with growing plants, indoor house plants throughout most of my life from when I was a young child and all that. But it took well into my adult life before I was finally handed a cucumber start from someone that I grew out on a balcony, and that was the first thing I ever grew that produced food. And for me, that was like the big, like, oh wow, I got to do more of this. So then it was in the next year or two that I started, trying to expand my gardening experience by growing things from seed. When you start doing that and you start succeeding and having plants grow from little seeds and all of that, what it does and that transformation that happens to you personally in be having that empowerment of being
Yeah.
able to take that little seed and nurture it into not just a full grown plant, but something that actually provides something for you that later on you're eating and enjoying. I think it's just it's a very powerful thing, not just the seed growing experience itself, but what it does for us as people,
and it's
and
and
then
it's cyclatory because you're
mhm,
taking the stuff from your garden and then
yeah,
you're making compost out of it,
yep,
which in turn is going to help the next generation of plants.
regenerative gardening, man, bring
How
that
cool is
stuff
that?
around. It's just amazing.
So, and you never know when it's going to hit you. I have a friend of mine that was in his 30s, and
Hmm.
his brother gave him for his birthday a small sago palm, just a real
Okay.
simple little sago palm.
Yeah.
Got it at the grocery store or something like that. Happy birthday! Today, this guy has the world's largest private collection of palms collected from all over the world. It's it's
Oh
it's
wow.
amazing, and it just took that one little sago palm to pique his interest. And now, when he goes to different palm societies, people, I mean, they're like bowing down to him because he's like a palm god.
Yeah.
You grow as a person along with the plants that you are growing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
statement there.
Yes, exactly. And again too, like you said, it's one of the things I tell people, and I get from a lot of people who are always kind of fascinated the idea that I garden and I grow. And I says, well, you should try growing something yourself. And I get a lot of the, oh no, I have a black thumb. or a brown thumb. Some people will say it sometimes, but I'm like, you know what? That's I think everybody has that in them, as well as a really great gardener in them as well too. There's this wanting to connect with nature and life that's inside of us, that's natural. And I think that everybody has a gardener inside of them. And I tell them not to be deterred also from the fact that, you know, you're killing some plants in order to learn about growing plants, because that's how we all figure it out. So,
Yeah.
you know, if we all took the plants that we've killed along the way and let that stop us from growing as gardeners, then none of us would really make it anywhere, because it takes a lot of and that's the great thing about the plant world and plant life, is that it allows us as people to gain that connection through that sort of process even. So I think, you know, and that's what I tell people, there's always an inner gardener inside of everybody just waiting to come out. You just got to
Well,
let them come out.
I think it's an inherent thing, because if you think about it, you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 years, 1,000 years ago.
Yep.
Everybody had to have been some kind of a farmer of some sort. They had to have grown something.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
just lost that. And then when you end up just picking up some soil and you smell it, I
Mm.
mean, that right there is just a phenomenal experience. It touches all the senses.
Yep.
And then to know that you're going to be able to make a salad out of that hand of dirt one day,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's magic. You know, there's
Yeah, it
magic
really
in
is.
that. And I think really that's why again too, back to the idea of technology in gardening, though it may have some bumps in the road kind of things with misinformation that's out there because of the technology, but at the same time it's also opens up, you know, this world to more people. And that's one
Well,
of the
you
things
know,
we've
it's
seen over these years now, is that there's a growing population of people who are gardening, and the
yeah.
gardening world is growing, you know, with the help of, you know, social media and technology, and the ability for individuals like ourselves to be able to reach people through this wide net.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely true. And and sharing that information and knowledge. One of the things I encourage anybody and everybody to do is to uh, join a garden club.
Hmm.
And in fact, I just spoke at a garden club a couple of weeks ago in at one of our local botanic gardens. I
Yeah.
pointed that way as if it was that way.
Hmm.
And the I want back when I first started in garden communications,
Yeah.
the average age of somebody that was in a garden club, number one, you had to have blue or purple hair
Right.
because you're turning gray, right? You had to be older. You had
Yeah.
to be older. You were probably in your 80s at least,
Right.
70s to 80s. It was so refreshing to see a younger audience in there, to
Hmm.
seeing the 20, 30s, and 40-year-olds involved.
Yeah.
I mean, you still had all your blue hairs out there, which wasn't a problem because
Yep.
you have the time to garden. But you know what? Start off with one plant. Take that
Yeah.
pothos, and in fact, if you're going to do anything, you go to Enoch's house, you knock on the door, and you ask him for a cutting of that pothos.
Yeah.
Start that. He'll tell you how to grow it.
I've got some
Is
already ready for you right there. Yep.
and it
Yep.
becomes
All ready to
infectious.
go. Yep. Oh, we have a little freeze again. We'll give you a second there. But yeah, that's the, you know, in the long run, um, that's really true about gardening and growing again, too, is this idea that, you know, sharing as well, you know, being able to share this experience with other people, which is one of the things I really like doing. Looks like we do have a freeze here that's happened. Not sure. We'll give Nick here a moment real quick here to maybe see if we can get connected back on there. We'll look at that a second here. And I think this happens to Nick, all only him or something. There must be a bug in our show or something like that, where where that happens with Nick. But we'll get him back on here. We'll let him get things adjusted again real quick. We'll get him back here on the show with us. But yeah, let's just talk a little bit more about that idea, though, too. Right? Again, that's why we're here, and that's what our show's about, and what the channel's all about. And again, too, I think something that I think we do really well here with our channel, and something I pride myself on, is that shared experience. That I don't look at the Urban Gardener channel as just a place just for me and that sort of thing. I think this is a community channel, and a channel that I work really hard to make sure that, again, we talked about at the beginning, about sharing the show with all of your friends, which I still encourage everybody to do. But again, we have all these great people throughout the gardening community who get to join with us and to take part with us in this experience of growing and connecting with this inner gardener that we all have. And and I think that that's just one of the more powerful things about again, social media, this whole online experience that's opened up gardening to a bigger, larger, wider audience, and more people, again, to who can find people like Nick, and so many others that we feature on this show and on our channel, can go to social media and find people like them to be able to help and encourage them along with their growing experience. A lot of us will get, again, like that, like he's talked about with his friend with the palm, or this other plant. We'll get something, we'll get ourselves started, and then once we get started with growing, and I think a lot of gardeners know and understand this, is that now we want to do the next thing. We want to grow the next thing, we want to grow more, and we want to do that, and we don't want to be discouraged along the way if plants are, again, too, not working out, or we're not finding successes with that sort of stuff. And to have so many people in this just really great, awesome gardening community that's full of so many people who are contributing, to be able to connect with people and to help people grow and grow even better, so that they don't get discouraged with the growing experience. Because I hate to see anybody get discouraged because of any sort of issues that they might be having. And I always encourage people to continue on growing and find, like I said to Nick, that inner gardener, out there. So I don't know. Let's see here. I haven't seen him come back in the thing yet. So again, we'll give him a moment here. Maybe he's restarting the computer or something like that. But yeah, gardening, as I like to say, is if you're not learning, you're not gardening. And that's another thing too, is that we have to learn right from the get-go, especially as I tell newer gardeners, that you got to take your experiences and learn from them, and not as I said, get discouraged and say for me, I still have things that challenge me years and years later that I continue to try year in, year out, and work at and get better at growing. And so there's still things for me even that I find that are issues. So I don't want people to have certain issues as new gardeners to begin with that discourage them from growing and continuing that gardening experience. And always say that no matter what it takes, if you're determined to learn how to grow something, you can get that figured out easily when it comes down to it. I've had a lot of different issues with brassicas. I've talked about this many different times on the show as well too. Brassicas always challenge me every year, but I applied some things I've learned over the last couple of years this last season, and I grew some of the best broccoli plants I've ever grown. Onions are one that years for, and I've followed a lot of different information I've learned and figured out about onions, and I've had to try several different methods in order to finally get it figured out. But this last year, I grew some of the biggest, awesomest onions I've ever grown, but it's taken me years to get there. So some experiences take a little while longer, and some of them aren't, will come a little bit faster. But like I said, I always say, don't get discouraged by, initial failures. These are just things, as we talk about with anything we're doing, success comes with failures. We learn from those failures, those things that happen. And again, too, one of the great things about the plant and growing world is that it's very forgiving in that situation, and allows for us to go through a process of learning and figuring out what to do as far as fixing certain issues that we might come up with, because again, there's a lot of variables when it comes to growing, as we all know, who've grown anything for any amount of time. Light variables, watering variables, pests, fertilization, as we were talking with Nick about microclimates and all that sort of stuff. There's just so many different things for us to learn as individuals in our own individual gardens, because my garden's going to respond to different things differently than what your garden is. My garden's going to have different microclimates and an ultimate environmental system than what your garden's going to have. So we all have things that we've got to learn along the way to make our own individual gardens successful. And that's one of the things that's really awesome about having all these, again, social media garden groups and different people from all over the world contributing through YouTube and different places that we can find information that help us learn more and encourage us about growing and gardening. I think in an ideal world, everyone would garden, everyone would have some sort of growing that they would do, even if you're just a busy person and you can only have a couple little things maybe out on your front porch or your back porch or someplace, balcony or some small space, an indoor kitchen, garden tower or something like that, that's with minimal work required and all of that. And from having people who can do that sort of thing all the way to people who have bigger spaces and more time. I just really think that gardening, growing your own food is just one of those really great experiences. Let's see here. Oh, I want to invite or say hi to, looks like Skippy here, saying, I recently saw a quote, I never lose, either win or I learn. That is an awesome quote. Exactly. And that's never more true than when it comes to gardening, and that should be our experience, and we're always gaining something, as that quote suggests. We're never losing anything by any of our experiences. We're always growing from them. Whether we're growing personally ourselves or our gardens are actually growing and thriving through those experiences. So, well, I'm not sure if we're going to see Nick come back here. I'm not sure if he's getting his technology fixed or if that's not happening, or so our interview might be cut short again. We might end up having to bring Nick back onto the show again some other time so we could actually get down to, I think we were just having a really fun conversation there. I wanted to ask him a few good questions there, but we might again have to bring him back for another show down the road. But I'll just, looks like we might have him reconnecting now. So we'll give him a moment here and then we'll bring him back on here in just a moment. All right, let's see here. Okay.
I'm gonna start taking all this stuff personally.
I know what is going on here, right? This is like, I was like, It must be just a bug that our show has with you in particular.
It could be this computer that I'm using. I'm not sure. I've got you tethered in. I was using Chrome, and I thought everything was okay. And I decided, let me just reboot the computer and
that's what I figured you
I
were
went
doing
and
there.
I saw you on YouTube just now. And I figured, maybe I'll just call back right now and see what's what.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping. I was like, maybe he's just restarting things and
Yeah. Oh, who
But look,
knows?
let's see. We got Rob over in England says, "Welcome back, Nick."
Hey, Rob.
Yes. So yeah, I was just vamping on there a little bit about kind of what we were talking about, the experience of gardening, and one of the great things I think about, the garden community, and it also comes back to what you were talking about just a little bit before broke off there was, the people. One of the things I think myself, I even enjoy in this experience and sharing my garden experience through YouTube and this show and all of that is those people that we get to connect with. And you shared an experience about that. I had one just recently at the National Heirloom Exposition when I was down in your area this last September. I was there and I was filming and I had my camera and I'm trying to take some video of the different things that are going on there. And I had this whole family walk up to me and they were like, "Hey, we watch your channel. We love what you do." And mentioned the show and how they, liked the show and what we've been doing with all of that and everything. But this whole family and even the young kids, because you mentioned, a young kid as well too, we're all like, "Yeah, it's so great to meet you," and they all wanted to have a big family photo with me.
Nice.
And that was kind of one of my, that's probably the second experience I had. I had one a couple of years before at a previous show, but I think that one was really cool, and really kind of, again, too, solidifies that effort in putting yourself out there and sharing your garden experience with people, and through our, your show and people who do other things is that connection we get with everybody, which then creates, again, too, this larger, wider web of gardeners and people, and we get, grow this gardening community, not just grow plants, but grow our community and grow ourselves personally as people, and I think that's one of the greatest things. A lot of people talk about their communities, whether you like toy trains, or you're into crocheting, or there's communities for any sort of hobby or anything out there. But I really, really, truly believe that the gardening community is where it's at. I think it's got the greatest people.
Yeah, they really do. It's also there's also an interesting thing about the world of gardening, in that it is one of the, I'm gonna bring into the business aspect of it. I have met and I have known more people that come out of these high powered positions, businesses, and especially the pharmaceutical trade, that they get burned out so easily and they end up becoming a part of the gardening community, whether it's by creating a fertilizer or a plant food, or it could be a rakes or shovels. They invented something and then they
Yeah.
put their whole life into making the whole aspect of what we do easier.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of a cool thing too. So yeah, no, it's extremely cathartic, and the energy and as well as the calories that you could burn are just phenomenal.
It's really great. Right on, right on. And also too, I was going to mention, because before you broke off too, you were mentioning about gardening groups,
Clubs,
local
gardening clubs.
clubs, and that sort of thing. And that's something I think is really another way that it's at, that kind of takes us a little bit. It's great, the things that we got on social media for gardening, and creates these larger ways for us to connect. We've got people like Rob, who's watching the show right now from England. We're able to connect in this wider aspect, but having that local gardening group And if you don't have one in your local area, start one. I mean, this
It's
is
simple.
really where you're going to get some of your best growing and gardening information. And you can also filter out all of that stuff,
Yeah,
that extra stuff we kind of talked about that comes along with social media, whether
exactly.
it's
And you know what? What's really interesting is that just because a gardening club says that they are a begonia club or a rose
yeah,
club,
yeah,
or that's not all they talk about.
hmm,
It's just a club, and they have speakers that will
yep,
come to talk for free, and they'll come and they talk about all kinds of stuff. As I mentioned before, I rudely cut you off. As I mentioned, I was just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Pacific South Palisades at the Botanical Gardens over there, and they asked me to speak on homesteading.
oh, right.
I'm teaching people how to grow chickens and beef and goats and sheep in an urban
Yeah,
environment.
that's
Had
what,
nothing
yeah,
to do with quote unquote gardening, but
yep.
it did, because we also taught them on how to build a garden and to maintain it.
Hmm.
See,
Yeah, and that's
so
the cool thing too, is all those little kind of artillery type of groups and things, like you're saying there, bee groups,
yeah,
learning about bees and that sort of thing.
yeah, they don't just want to talk about that. They
Yep,
want to
yep.
talk about all kinds of different things. And
Hmm.
there's and
Leads to pollinator groups, leads to
it
these
does.
native plant gardening groups. There's just so many different fractional, little fraction off type segmented groups that are out there. But again, like you said, that's a great starting place. If that's
Yeah,
the only group that you can find in a way, that's something that's associated with gardening anyway, that's a good place to find people who
yeah,
are interested in those things. And I'll guarantee you, if you go to even like a bee group and went for one of their bee lectures, you're going to find a ton of people who are gardening and growing, and they're going to love to talk about those things as well.
and the worst thing that happens is that they're going to ask you to donate $20 a year or something to their cause. Um, People will
Yeah.
bring food. They'll bring
Hmm.
cookies and punch and stuff like that. That's always kind of cool.
Yep.
And they'll always have a raffle, and people
Yep.
bring all kinds of different plants to these raffles, and they just
Yep.
raffle them off. And then other people will just say, "Hey, I've got 35 cuttings of plumerias. Who wants them?" And
Yeah.
you
Oh,
get
yeah.
things for free.
Free plants is a big thing about getting involved with gardening groups, and especially
Yeah,
locally. That was a big thing that we used to get a lot of at my community garden, because we'd have all of us gardeners that come in, and our community gardens basically like a garden group.
yeah,
All the plants and free plants that we were getting, was so one of the great benefits of having friends who grow plants, right?
yeah. It is so cool.
Exactly. But yeah, and again too, also, as well, is the information you're going to get from people who are growing and gardening locally to your, coming back to those microclimates. You know what I mean? A lot of people are going to know and understand your more localized microclimates, when they're growing just down the street from you.
And they're going to say things, and you're going to learn things usually from a firsthand experience. You're
Yep.
going to find out, they're going to say, you know what? I tried that nonsense of using cinnamon as a root start. There is
Yeah.
no scientific evidence that cinnamon is good for anything other than putting in hot chocolate or
Yeah.
or,
Yep.
or or in something, or in a cinnamon roll.
Yep.
So there's a lot of like we talked earlier, there's a lot of misinformation, and usually
Yeah.
these people, they're not going to steer you wrong because they only want to see plant success. So go to your local. Well, first look online, see what's
Yeah.
closest to you, see if there's any garden clubs.
Hmm.
The second thing is call your city hall and ask
Yep.
them, because normally a gardening club is allowed to use city buildings
Yep.
for free,
Yep.
so that because
Hmm.
they want city involvement. So you can normally get those kind of places for free if you have a botanical garden in your backyard or someplace local, and
Yep.
you want to go out there. typically you can get into the botanic garden for free. They'll let you use the room for free, and depending on the speaker, you might be able to get in. When I went in, they did have a charge for the speaker, but
Right. Yeah, and again, too, those clubs are fundraising as well, too, because they want to be able to put on better events and all of that sort of stuff. So it makes sense. I'm never discouraged by any, especially smaller groups that are fundraising and that sort of stuff, because again, too, it's great to be supportive of those things and help those groups kind of succeed and again, too, put those bigger and better events and be able to invite, bigger speakers and lectures and all that sort of stuff, and those are all really good things too. And again, like I said, if we don't have a local gardening group or even a local community garden, get out there and start one. And another great place too, which is always a good place for any sort of localized information that you need, is your local extension services. Those
absolutely.
are always great places, and they probably have a connection to some gardening clubs as well, and those sort of things too. So always, when it comes to any sort of question or any sort of thing around your garden spaces, you're probably going to find some
or
good
like, for instance, if you know of the there's a National Rose Association, you can call them up and say, hey, look, I'd like to start something. They actually have packets they can give you that'll help you start, and you can actually become a branch of their association. So whether it's the roses or the irises or the daylilies, if there's a plant, there's probably a club for it. Epiphylium clubs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like there's the gardening community itself, and then everybody, like I say, they branch off, and every specific plant has a group and a community around it as well too. So
all right, so like I go to a lot of home shows, and I give free speeches at home shows. And I remember one time the home show, it wasn't the one that I'm involved with right now, it was a different home show, but they had the home show, and then they next door to next building at one of the fairgrounds, they had the orchid show. Right. You would have thought the Beatles were at that place. You would have thought that Aerosmith was playing. You would have thought that Miley Cyrus was there.
Right.
And they were all there just to buy orchids.
Wow.
There were thousands of people there.
Wow.
So you just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. And go find some of those groups and those places and all that. So let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about you real quick, Nick. We got you all here. Last time again, as we just found out a little bit with technical difficulties. I think that was pretty much the full story of the first interview we had.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, to get everybody up. Idea. I mean, I remember.
Get everybody up to speed. What happened was that Enoch gives me a call. He says, like he'd be a guest on the show. And I said, well, he gives me a date. I said, well, I'm speaking that date. Then I had the brainiac idea. Let's bring my audience into this.
Yeah.
So when I get to the home show,
there's no internet.
There's no internet connection. Right. Zero internet connection. So we had to hurry up and make a choice over here. We bought an internet connection for $150.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We hook up, we are able to get on like this, but I wasn't able to get my sound out of my speakers properly for the audience to hear. And I couldn't hear you because I didn't have headphones for this. And it was just a shambles, total shambles. but that's part of life, man. It was fun,
And I remember those first email conversations we were having about the idea and that date. I was like, well, I could kind of structure some things for another date. And you were like, oh no, what do you think? Like, we'll do it as a dual. I was like, you know what? That kind of sounds like fun. So here we are, like planning for this date this whole time. I'm thinking, oh, this one's going to be real fun. And I remember talking to one of the producers at that time. I was like, man, this will be kind of an interesting type of show. He'll have his audience there. We'll have, he'll be live and we'll be talking with them in that way. And we were looking forward to it all until it actually starts coming down and we're like, uh-oh, things did, and then it started making sense. I was like, oh no, we are like a trade show, so even if there was any sort of internet, it's not going to be very well. And then to
Yeah,
find out that part of it, how you had to
yeah,
set up something separate, and then the show, the sound, the audio of it all wasn't.
yeah. And
Oh, what a
the ambient noise was just so loud.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was the other thing, because you had all these booths over there, and there's people running around, and they're playing music, or they're talking on their
yeah.
microphones, and it was just. But
You'd
we
have to have
tried.
yeah, you'd have to have a specific type of microphone for that sort of situation, and the computer ones and all of that sort of stuff. It just wasn't going to work out right. And again, a fun experience. It was quite a,
You
quite a
know,
situation where,
it,
I was like, oh, okay, well, what to do in this sort of situation? Kind of similar to what just a little bit earlier is, well, you know what? We'll just talk with everybody and see if things will work its way out. And eventually we just had to call it on that one, and again
well, it's
schedule
better to
everything.
try. It's better to try something and fail than say, "Well, I could have.
Yep.
We could have done this.
Right
We
back to
could
what we
have
were
done
just
that.
talking about, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did it. We failed. All right."
Mhm.
and that ties in. Yeah, that ties into your plants.
Yeah.
You can grow a plant. Well, all right. Well, maybe you don't have that green thumb for that
Yeah.
pothos. Maybe it is
Yep.
the monstera, or maybe
Yep.
you're going to find out that you're a whiz at growing African violets.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. But it's got to be something. Like I said, I know there's a green thumb in everybody. So let's talk about your things green. You've been a radio and television host for many, many years. Tell us a little bit about your show and how that all got started for you.
Oh boy, that's I'm actually writing a book on that. It's about 90% done. So
Oh, nice.
when it happens, we could do another show
Yeah,
on
yeah, I'd love to
this.
do that.
But yeah, you know what? I just had an opportunity nearly 40 years ago to be on the second largest radio station in the United States. I filled in for somebody, is what it is.
Yeah.
And I received so much. This right here, for those people who don't know, this is called a letter. And they used to put them in. They used to put them at the post office,
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and
that's right.
they would deliver it to you. You put a stamp on it and everything. But what happened was, but what happened is that I did this one show. 2 weeks later, I get a call from the station manager. He tells me, he sits me down. I'm thinking, man, I killed some old lady's plants. I'm in trouble. He brings a big box of mail. He says, you generated more mail in one show than the other guy that we had on here that's been here for 2 years. And
Wow.
the odd part about it is that I was actually friends with that guy,
Yeah.
with the other guy that was doing a show.
Yeah.
And when they offered me the job, I called him up and I told him, I said, look, they offered me your job. If you don't want me to take it, I won't. I had my 15 minutes of fame. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And he gave me his blessing, and he ended up moving to Australia.
He's like, oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Thanks,
happened.
man. You take over, no problem.
And
Packed,
it
packed. I'm
started
out of here.
exactly. It started a career for me, and then I started doing just little television here and there. Then I got this one news gig. In fact, I had stopped doing TV for about 10 years, just different news stuff. And so about 10 years I stopped, and I just had a client ask me, would you go do something for us over at a station? And I said, yeah, I'll do that for you. I have, so I went and I did it. The TV station, they were fascinated. They said, can you do that again? Sure, I could do that again. Well, I've since then I have produced and, we'll say, starred and whatever you want to call, hosted well over 500, maybe even 550 segments for that news channel.
Yeah.
And then in the interim, I was called by PBS. They asked me, they says, have you ever done any like 30-minute television shows? I said, I record all of my segments, 8 segments, in one day. You're kidding. And the TV station, both the station PBS and CBS, they're like, we've never seen anybody do this before. And that's not because of me. That's because of my Crackerjack crew. My crew is top notch. I don't do this by myself. I have people who help me, and they are the ones that make me successful so that I could share my gardening information with everybody. So so that's how it started, and here we are. A TV show has I'm certain I've got well over 500 episodes of the TV show, and let's see, currently he is the resident on-air expert for Los Angeles CBS KCAL News every Saturday morning. So that's what that's
Jay in our comments dropping some facts about you.
Oh, is that what he's doing? Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Talk about being accurate. Yeah. So, like, for instance, today is Saturday the 2nd. Today I was on Channel 9 News, and then I did which is our CBS affiliate. So I did a 5-minute segment on pruning, how to prune fruit trees. Then at 9 a.m. I was on PBS, KLCS Los Angeles, and I did a 30-minute show. We did it on aquaponics. And then anytime between 5 a.m. to as we're talking right now, someplace in the United States is playing my 2-hour radio show where people call in, I give commentary, I answer, or we'll have guests. We'll just, in fact, you've been on that show before.
Yeah. That was one of my, in fact, my first radio experience. And again, too, I think one of the more fun things I've got to do in starting my whole like gardening YouTube adventure and all of that was calling and connecting with you and wanting to do a video just talking about, my idea was to do a video on gardeners who are on the radio, because I kind of got started in my fascination with gardening following a radio personality, Cisco Morris. Up in the Pacific Northwest, and from when I was a teenager, was listening to this radio program. So I wanted to kind of do a video on that, and I was like, but I know that, and I know this guy I've been following through Facebook and whatnot, doing ThingsGreen down in LA. I should call him up and see if he'll do a video. And you were like, yeah, for sure. So I'm going down there with this whole idea, like, let's I want to go and do a video. And then you get a hold of me and you're like, hey, how about you get on my radio show too? And I was like, I've never done that before. So I call up someone else that I was like doing videos with, and I knew Kay Cottrell. And I was like, hey, well, you want to go and do this radio show with me so I don't have to do it by myself?
How's she doing, by the way?
She's doing great. We had her on the show just about a month or two back, and she no longer lives in Los Angeles. She's moved, I believe it's Tennessee where she lives now. Has herself a small little homestead and doing all that sort of stuff now. So that was kind of a fun conversation with her, was to talk about that change from growing a front yard, really cool city urban garden, to now having all of this space and these big garden spaces and stuff now too. But she's doing really well. But that was kind of a fun thing. I was like, hey, you want to come do that? She was like, yeah, I'll come joy to do that with you, so I could do this radio show. And that was my first experience. But since then too, we've done a bunch of other things together, including a segment for your television show. And you've done a few videos with us here. And so again too, really,
well, I'm not a stingy guy. And like I said, it's all about the people. It's all about people. I have no competition.
Yep.
I never have thought that I've had competition. There's other garden communicators out there that do absolutely wonderful jobs.
Yeah.
I have, everybody has their own little niche, and I think that's actually kind of a cool thing. I have my audience. I'm secure with my audience, and letting them know that
Yeah.
it's let's get the word out. It's just
And that's
basically let's get the word
and
out.
definitely, and that's again too one of the things I think was I really connected with you right off the bat, and also in the long run too continues to influence my outlook and perspective on the show and the things that we do here as well too. It is one of the things I even mentioned earlier in the show too, is that we really pride ourselves on here on my Urban Gardener channel, as well as the Let's Get Growing show, is that we are, you know I don't want to use the term center of the garden, but I like to be seen as kind of like this is a place where you can learn about people, and that we don't worry about cross audiences or any sort of sense of ownership or anything like that. We're really comfortable where we are to be able to talk with and help promote and do some things with other people who are doing really awesome things in the gardening community. And again too, just so many wonderful people, and we just want to be able to be a place where that conversation can happen, between people who are doing different things throughout the whole garden media community even.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense. It's good
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is really good stuff. And it's really great again too, like to be able to have you back here on the show again too,
Thank you very
barring
much for the invitation.
we only had the one little hiccup, so I guess we did get off pretty good this time, right? So real quick here before we go, you want to let everybody know just a little bit more about your show and where they can find you and some of the things that you got coming up here?
Best thing to do is just type into any search engine Things Green. Yeah, Things Green. Yeah, it's right there on the screen, I guess. Huh?
Mhm.
ThingsGreen.com. You'll
As
be
well
able
as a
to.
link right down in the description too.
Yeah, you'll be able to figure out how to call me, how to talk to me. I'm active on social media. I actually answer the emails. If you write a
Mhm.
really long email, I'll say thank you very much, and I'll probably won't answer it because but
Yeah.
yeah, I have somebody who collects my emails for me. They're pre-screened, and
Mhm.
so I'll handle. But I actually see all the email. Just go through the
Yeah.
website there. There's a click, or
Yeah.
through Facebook. I have 3 Facebook channels. One of them I don't not too active on. 2 of them I am. It's the
Yeah.
Nick ThingsGreen Federoff one that's the
Yeah.
most active, I think. And yeah, just go ahead and get a call. Give me a call. Send me an email.
Yeah.
Let's hook it up.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah,
too, where I see you a lot too is through like Facebook. You do, like you mentioned, record your radio show and you'll run it through Facebook, and so if anybody wants to join in with any of those radio shows as you're doing them, you usually have those on kind of live so people can ask questions right there.
yeah.
If you have any garden questions, it's one of the great things about Nick and his show. That's what it's all about, is answering your garden questions and helping people, understand their garden spaces a little bit better.
And as you can find out, as we did right here on this show today, nothing is rehearsed.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you never know, right? Well, awesome again, Nick. Thank you so much again for coming in and joining with us here on the show to kind of get another chance to have a fun garden conversation. And I know you mentioned as well too, you're working on a book. So if you do get that book published, let me know, because we'd definitely love to have you back on to talk about that or anything else. I'm sure we've got some new things that we're talking about doing for the show this upcoming new season that we'll be talking about here in the next few weeks and stuff too. So there'll be plenty of opportunities this next year as well too to have some more fun conversations with you here on Let's Get Growing.
Fantastic. Sounds like a plan, my friend. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you, and I wish you much continued success as
Thank you.
as you cultivate your audience and everybody else that's involved with your program. And you're doing a really great job. I'm really proud of you. seeing from where you came from to where you're going to what you're doing. And it's really, really nice. And I wish you the best success. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's. I probably won't talk to you other than online before then. And I look forward
you hold
to
on to just one moment too. I will be ending the show, so I'll have a couple words with you real quick after the show.
so just stay right here.
Just stay right here for
Oh my goodness. We can talk to me without everybody hearing it.
Right.
Oh, this is so
secret
cool.
after show conversation.
Modern technology. I love it. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Awesome, Nick. Again, to get down below, everybody, in the description, check out the ThingsGreen.com. Find Nick and all of his show and programs and all of that there. And we'll see you again soon on the program.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much again to Nick Federoff for joining with us here as our featured guest this week on Let's Get Growing. And I want to thank all of you again, too, for joining with us here. And before you go, be sure to hit that like button, hit the thumbs up button, and give the show a big like for our featured guest, Nick, joining with us. And be sure to subscribe to our channel for all of our upcoming videos and live streams. Click the subscribe button as well as the bell notification to be notified, and be sure to share our show with all of your garden friends and your garden groups so that they can come check out all of our great conversations like today's conversation. And you can also find us at letsgetgrowing.live. And also, be sure to check out the link down below in the description, as I mentioned earlier, about our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing Gardening group, where you can go and join along with all of our other great, awesome gardeners in our gardening community. And I think the best thing about it, I mentioned each and every week, is that it gives you the opportunity to be able to share your gardens and your garden spaces with not just everybody else in our gardening community, but with me. I get to see what your gardens look like, because it's really awesome that I get to share with all of you my garden spaces here on the Urban Gardener channel. But the Facebook group there gives me a great opportunity to be able to see all of your gardens. And if you're a newer gardener, there's a great place to be able to ask questions of all of the other gardeners in the garden community, to be able to get some help with your garden spaces, as well as for all of you more experienced gardeners, an opportunity for you to be able to help some other gardeners by answering some questions in our gardening community. So again, I want to thank you all so much for another wonderful week here on the Let's Get Growing show, and all of the great questions there in our comments section. We'll be seeing you again with another great guest this next week. And from all of us here at Let's Get Growing, have a great week, and we'll see you next Saturday.